What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video, I want to talk to you guys about whether ice is bulletproof and if you can use ice as cover to protect yourself and your family from small arms fire. If, for example, you live in a northern climate where you get several months of freezing temperatures each year and there's an SHTF situation or a collapse of society, could you make a bunch of ice and use it to bulletproof your house or bug out location? So I recently tested ice to see how bullet resistant it is, and I posted some videos where I shot at ice with a variety of different firearms. And if you haven't checked them out, I recommend you watch them. They are in my ice penetration tests playlist. I'll leave a link to that playlist at the top right corner of this video. What I want to do is summarize the results of those tests and answer the question, is ice bulletproof? And I also want to discuss whether ice makes for good ballistic protection against small arms fire. Now, to make the ice for my tests, I filled up some 5-gallon buckets with water and left them outside for a few days until they froze solid. These 5-gallon buckets are just basic plastic buckets you can purchase at a home improvement store. I got mine from Lowe's. I then removed the ice from the buckets and they came out as solid cylinders with a diameter of about 12 inches. I lined up the cylinders and shot at them with different firearms. The cartridges I used in these tests were the 10mm auto, 308 Winchester, and 416 Ruger, which is an elephant gun cartridge. I figured these cartridges would give a wide variety of power levels from a handgun cartridge all the way up to a high-power rifle. Now, for the 10mm auto test, the firearm I used was my Rock Island Armory 1911 TAC Ultra high capacity with a 5.5-inch barrel. And the ammunition I used was some Buffalo Bore 220 grain hard cast bear loads with an advertised velocity of 1,200 feet per second and a muzzle energy of 700 foot-pounds. And for the 308 Winchester test, the firearm I used was my Patriot Ordnance Factory Rogue AR-10 rifle with a 16-inch barrel. And the ammunition I used was some PMC X-Tac M80 ball rounds, which are a 147 grain full metal jacket bullet with an advertised velocity of 2,800 feet per second. But out of my 16-inch barrel POF Rogue, the velocity is around 2,550 feet per second with these rounds, as verified by chronograph tests that I've done, and for a muzzle energy of around 2,100 foot-pounds. And finally, for the elephant gun cartridge test, the 416 Ruger, the rifle I used was my Ruger guide gun with a 20-inch barrel, and the ammunition I used was some Hornady 400 grain dangerous game solids with a velocity of 2,400 feet per second and a muzzle energy of 5,100 foot-pounds, which I have confirmed through chronograph testing. These Hornady dangerous game solids are mostly steel bullets with a small lead core, and they have incredible penetration capabilities as they are designed to stop a charging elephant and rhino. I decided it would be good to include a very high power rifle in the test, as you might encounter something like a 338 Lapua or similar Magnum rifle after SHTF. So this would give us an idea of how well the ice would stand up to an ultra high power cartridge. The 416 Ruger is designed to bring down all of Africa's Big Five with a single shot. It can generate up to 5,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And in previous penetration tests that I've done with it, it has shown massive penetration. In one test, it penetrated through a 24-inch diameter oak log. In another test, it penetrated through 26 Douglas fir 2x10 framing joists, which is 36 inches of Douglas fir wood. And in another test, it penetrated through 75 sheets of 1/2 inch plywood, which is about 36 inches of plywood. And if you want to see those tests, you can check out my 416 Ruger playlist, and I'll leave a link to that playlist at the top right corner of this video. Now, in all of these tests, I shot at the ice from a distance of 25 yards. So to answer the main question, is ice bulletproof? No, it is not bulletproof. However, it is bullet resistant to a certain degree. Now, could you use ice as protection against small arms fire? Yes, you can use ice, but you will need a good amount of ice. Also, it will need to be cold enough outside for the ice to freeze solid enough so that it doesn't have any hollow voids that haven't frozen completely. It took 3 days for the 5-gallon buckets of water to freeze completely solid, and that was with daytime temperatures maxing out at around 20 degrees Fahrenheit and nighttime temperatures of between -5 degrees Fahrenheit to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So you will need to live in an area where the temperatures are mostly below freezing in the winter months. If you live in an area or plan to bug out to an area where there are frequent warm spells in the winter, then ice will not work as ballistic protection because you won't be able to make enough ice or the ice will thaw out. So to summarize the results of my test, the 10mm auto buffalo bore hard cast bear loads penetrated through one 10-inch diameter cylinder of ice. All right, guys, so let's hit this ice block with some 10mm. Got my Rock Island 1911. This has a 5.5 inch barrel. We're going to be using some buffalo bore heavy outdoorsman 220 grain hard cast that has an advertised velocity of 1,200 feet per second. This is the deepest penetrating 10mm load that I've tested so far. So let's see how it does against that huge block of ice. Wow, guys, I'm pretty impressed by that buffalo bore 10mm heavy outdoorsman 220 grain hard cast traveling at 1,200 feet per second. It blew through the entire 10-inch diameter block of ice. Look at that. Honestly, I wasn't expecting that. I thought it might just kind of ricochet, maybe leave a little bit of a dent. But look at the kinetic energy. Pretty impressive. I hit a little bit to the right, but still I shot through pretty much the thickest part. Check this out, guys. It looks like it split the whole thing. There's like a huge crack in the middle. Check that out. Look at that. Pretty impressive. Now, it didn't blow the whole top of the block off like the rifle rounds do. The rifle rounds will just blow the whole top off, but still it penetrated through this entire block. So pretty impressive. The .308 Winchester M80 ball rounds penetrated through two 10-inch diameter cylinders of ice, or 20 inches of ice. All right, guys, so we're gonna hit these ice blocks with my POF Rogue AR-308. I'm going to be using some PMC X-Tac. These are an M80 ball round, 147 grain full metal jacket, and I've chronographed these rounds out of my 16.5-inch POF Rogue to be traveling around 2,550 feet per second. So let's load these bad boys up and let's see what happens. All right, guys, let's see what happened. All right, guys, impressive results with the POF Rogue with the PMC X-Tac M80 ball round, 147 grain full metal jacket, going at around 2,550 feet per second. Penetrated through 2 of these 10-inch diameter ice blocks, frozen 5-gallon pails. Check this out, guys. Look at this. I mean, you can make ice with this rifle. Check that out. Just completely shredded these ice blocks. Look at this. Pretty impressive. 308. Check that out, guys. Look at how it just completely fractured all the ice. Check that out. Completely blew it apart. Look at this. That is just crazy. The kinetic energy just completely fractured all the ice. Look at that. That is just insane. But no damage to the third one. No damage to the third one at all. It went through 2 of them. And the third one is completely intact. But look at this, guys. Very impressive. So that's 20 inches of ice with the POF Rogue 16.5-inch barrel AR-10 PMC X-Tac 147 grain full metal jacket, going at around 2,550 feet per second. Penetrated through 20 inches of ice, 2 10-inch diameter ice blocks. Very impressive. Let's just take another look at this destruction here. That is just insane. Insane power. And the 416 Ruger elephant gun with steel solids penetrated through 4 10-inch diameter cylinders of ice for a total of 40 inches of ice. All right, guys, 416 Ruger elephant gun versus ice blocks. We got our 400 grain dangerous game solid, and I've actually chronographed this load, and I can confirm through chronographing that this does in fact travel 2,400 feet per second out of my 20-inch barrel Ruger guide gun. Okay, and that's 5,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. So let's see what happens here. This is a steel jacketed bullet, and this thing has a monstrous penetration. So let's see what happens here. All right, let's go check it out, see what happened. All right, guys, so it looks like the 416 Ruger elephant gun with the Hornady 400 grain dangerous game solid steel jacketed bullet traveling at 2,400 feet per second, generating 5,100 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, shot through 4 of these ice blocks. Look at that, guys. That is absolutely insane penetration. That's about 40 inches of ice. Each one of these ice blocks was 10 inches in diameter, and it just blasted through 4 of them. That is just absolutely insane. Look at how it just completely blew them in half. That is just insane. I can't believe it. And look at the kinetic energy, how it fractured the bottom half of these ice blocks. Check that out. Look at that. It just completely fractured them. Look at that. It looks kind of cool, actually. It looks like a quartz crystal or something. But check this out. Impressive power from the 416 Ruger. This is one of my all-time favorite cartridges. Very overlooked and underestimated. Excellent cartridge. Look at this penetration, guys. Look at that. 40 inches of ice. Impressive. Okay. Let's just see what it looks like on the top here. You can see it just completely shredded. Look at that. It just shredded the whole thing. And the kinetic energy just completely fractured the ice. Look at this. That is just insane. 416 Ruger, aka Ice Maker. Look at this. And I don't see the bullet anywhere. Check that out. Look at the devastation. Absolutely insane. Now, one thing to note is that the kinetic energy of the bullets fractured and destroyed the ice. It didn't just cleanly penetrate through the ice, but it also broke the ice apart, similar to how concrete blocks break apart. So this is something you will need to consider when you're making your ice barrier. You will not only need to make the ice thick enough, but you will also need to make it wide enough so that your ice barrier can withstand repeated hits. So how thick should you make your ice barrier? Well, the 308 M80 ball round penetrated through 20 inches of ice, and that represents probably close to the upper limit of most small arms fire you will need to deal with in an SHTF situation. Now, the elephant gun cartridge penetrated through 40 inches of ice, and there's not many people out there who own elephant guns. Now, I did not get a chance to test my 300 Win Mag yet, but we can estimate that a 300 Win Mag or a cartridge with similar power level should be able to penetrate somewhere between what the 308 and the 416 Ruger penetrated. So we can estimate around 30 inches of ice for a 300 Win Mag or something in the same power range like a 7mm Rem Mag. So I would want my ice barrier to be a minimum of 30 inches thick. But remember that after repeated hits, your ice barrier will crumble, similar to the way that concrete blocks crumble. So the thicker, the better, and the wider, the better. Now, some ways that you could make an ice barrier would be by doing what I did, filling up buckets with water and just leaving them outside and letting them freeze. And then you could stack them up. Another thing you could do is build a plywood wall around your house and then spray the plywood with water from a hose and then spray that plywood a little bit each day so the water freezes on it, and just keep building up your plywood ice wall a little bit each day by spraying a little bit each day, and eventually you'll have a pretty thick wall of ice. So I hope this video helped you out. Again, to summarize the results of the tests, the 10mm auto with buffalo bore bear loads penetrated through 10 inches of ice. The 308 Winchester with M80 ball rounds penetrated through 20 inches of ice. And the 416 Ruger elephant gun with steel solids penetrated through 40 inches of ice. So thanks for watching. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.